My name is Matti Ketonen. I come from Metsä Board, a company within Metsä Group. Metsä Group as such is one of the big forest industry companies in Finland. Thank you for QPR for having me. I feel very humble now. Everything important has been said already during today. So you can just relax and participate the journey, listen to hopefully a good story. It is a story of more than 7 years now. And for that reason, I'm probably not going to go into any specific details on this one, but rather describe some events in that journey. My contents, I'll try to describe the context a bit in a beginning, telling about the company and the situation where we were in 2011. Then the kind of overall picture of what's happened in the kind of big picture since then. And then I have 3 different situations where we used process mining, I think successfully. You make your judgment, of course, about the success. I'll give you some information about what might be reasons to, think of the whole journey as a success in the end. Then I'll talk a little bit about the mindset of the people who have participated, decision makers, core team members, everybody in the company, and some ideas about what the future could look like. Setting the scene, Metsä Group, half of Finland is owned by our owners. So it's a cooperative owned by 120,000 forest owners in Finland. And if you've seen Finland from above, there's quite a lot of forest here. So 50% roughly of the area is owned by our owners. Good position to be in the industry. But I'm not going to talk about the whole company. I'm going to talk about Metsä Board, which is nope. How do I? It's this one, I suppose. Went away from the presentation. Okay, thanks. I'm going to talk about paperboard making, Metsä Board, and specifically supply chain under Metsä Board. Obviously, we have 2 very big parts of the business that are the key for the profitability. First of all, making the product, and then delivering the product. Well, obviously, you have to sell it too, but I mean, that's where the cost is. That's where the cost of the business is in those 2 activities. Metsä Board, this is about 25% of the business that we had 10 years ago. The company was a paper company making printing papers, magazine papers, and we don't do that anymore at all. Since 2 years, we've been a pure play paperboard company making material for packaging. And that is actually fairly key to the situation where we were in 2011. I'll come back to that a bit later. I was saying that I'm going to talk about supply chain, and this is in the rough picture again, our supply chain. We have 6 mills making paperboard in Finland and Sweden, 2 making pulp, which is then, of course, mostly consumed by our own board making. Personnel in our supply chain only is 150, roughly. That includes customer service, but not the sales guys. Why is this important? The individual order line enters through customer service, not through the sales guys. So the scope of supply chain is very relevant for what we are talking about here. Order lines, yeah, for some people, not a lot. For us, that's what we are dealing with. Delivery countries, roughly 100 globally, main market, of course, being Europe. And delivery points, that's where we deliver roughly 1,000 globally. And some pictures of the product as well. Big reels of paperboard, or a little bit smaller pallets of sheeted material. So bulky materials which need to find cheap transportation, right? Sales, as said, main market in Europe, growing market in Americas, and some in Asia Pacific area. Then the journey over the, well, close to 8 years now. We started with the analysis of how we are working. Based on that, we did process re-engineering. Of course, we had to invest into our tools as well. Continuous monitoring. Once we had done the re-engineering, we wanted to make sure that we are actually using the processes. And it is very obvious that the processes don't stay as they are designed. You have to keep on working on them. Otherwise, you will see degradation in the performance. And then, again, with a new set of technologies available, perhaps our kind of ICT landscape growing old as well, yet again, as it always does. Now we are back to the analysis step. Some examples on each of these areas. Starting 2011, we had an ERP backbone that was 10 years old, and it was built for different business. Imagine running a wholesale, depot with tools that are meant for retail. That's roughly what we are talking about here. Printing paper, which was the background, is a bulky product delivered in big lots, not huge amount of product variation. The sheets that we are delivering nowadays, every millimeter, both directions, is a possible specification for the final product. So completely different setup. Looks the same, it's white, it can be sold on reels, it can be sheets, but the business itself, completely different logic in there. Previous core businesses sold or closed, and some of the levels that you would consider in kind of modern planning, let's say sales and operations planning, no connection whatsoever to the operative planning of the mills. So that's sort of connection problems, let's put it this way. One thing that we found in the fact finding, just an example of what this revealed to us. Our original assumption was, well, we knew that we change orders a lot, or somebody changes the orders a lot, right? We thought, and that was very much accepted kind of thinking, that the customers phone us late and then they change their specification and then we are in trouble, right? And our solution for that was that let's stop accepting the changes. Very engineered process-minded thinking, I would say, right? Well, would that make the customers happy? Well, but the truth was, we make a lot of delivery time changes, so a different change, not the change that we assumed it was, on our orders, and mostly the changes are not because of the customer in question. It was because we messed up, not the customer. Now, imagine starting the process engineering with this instead of that. Probably wouldn't have gone right. Just one finding, very important though. Okay. It was pretty much evident that we had to do something with the IT landscape, of course, at that time. So the question was raised, where did the justification of doing process mining come from? Well, I think the justification came from thinking that do whatever you need to do to understand where we are, so that we can plan something better. And of course, we knew that we are going to run a project with, which is going to cost several millions of euros. So, in a way, the cost that we were kind of planning to put into to understand the starting point was, let's say, fairly small. This is a slide. We have done some improvements. We've changed the name of the company as well since. So that's why it says MReal. That was the name of the company at the time. But this is an actual slide from our project proposal. 3 things we wanted to achieve. We wanted to understand the services that we are offering to the customer. We wanted to know what exactly it is that we promise to the customer. Of course, the best paperboard in the world, that's a given. But above and beyond that, what is it that we promise regarding deliveries, regarding delivery accuracies, regarding volumes, regarding order intake processes? And we wanted to not just understand them, but we wanted to be very clear of what we are offering. Sales operations planning, including logistics, and this goes back to what I said about the disconnection of certain exercises. Earlier we had done, of course, sales planning. Sales management had given tasks to their salespeople to achieve certain sales goals. Creating a budget, somebody even called that a forecast. But then we forgot about that, and then we created a production plan. So a clear disconnection there. We wanted to achieve something that, if we do have an understanding of the marketplace, it should actually drive our production. Pretty novel, isn't it? Right? And then we wanted to achieve better transparency. We wanted to understand how these different elements work together. And, since we had these disconnecting points, we wanted to make sure that at least we have tools in place where we can understand where the disconnection occurs, if it does. Just some phrases perhaps describing a kind of layman's language what was the attitude before we went into this. Yes, when our sales guys went to the customers, they had samples on the paperboard itself. They said, and as they should, that we have these 12 wonderful products and they come in 10 different thicknesses, and they are good for this and that application. That one is good for chocolate, that one is good for frozen food, whatever. But when it came to actually the delivery promise, we didn't have anything. The only thing we could say that typically from Finland to here, it might take 6 weeks, right? And then, the customer said, no, I want to have it in 5. Okay, we can do 5. Well, actually, I want 4. Okay, we'll try. So that was, and of course I'm exaggerating. But that's the thing. Some people could do anything, and then some others, let's play safe. 8 weeks minimum, no way I'm gonna deliver in 6. And then how can you monitor that sort of situation when you are negotiating with a customer? 120 sales guys going, the other one playing safe, the other one promising anything. Is there anything in the kind of customer portfolio that should be managed slightly differently? Okay, then any process, whatever process you design, will have situations when you need to deviate. Some processes more than others. But we didn't have any plans for those deviations. It was case-by-case handling. We have still today, overall, roughly 50% of our order-to-cash process flows through the so-called happy flow. Not more than 50. But for the remaining 50%, roughly 40% of that remaining part, we have predefined processes, how to either get back to the main process or how to go forward with that deviation. Huge difference from having, say, 40% of cases where you have designed the deviation process to case-by-case handling. So the attitude, luckily, was that we'll work hard to manage changes. At least we were working hard. So, had that been missing, then it would have been quite a difficult case. Okay, moving on. That was the kind of initial analysis, and then what we did in the kind of re-engineering phase. We went from anything goes to supply models that were predefined. And also we understood that once the processes have been set and the new tools are in place, we need to keep the processes running as they were designed. And then of course process data mining helps with both those. So we went from anything goes to 5 supply models. We went from case-by-case management of deviations to something where we now know there's roughly 5% of all our cases are nowadays such that we are in the kind of new territory or case-by-case type of handling. Then of course when you wanted to keep the processes running as planned, we go back to at least 2 of the presentations today where we've seen that we've seen the process flows and seen which transaction comes after the previous one. Was that planned or not? Was it supposed to go like that? What are the reasons? You can drill into mill, product, customer hierarchy, geography, organization, whatever your imagination basically comes up with. We have a fairly good data set in the process analyzer, meaning that whatever we can report anywhere else, we can also drill down to in the analyzer. So it is difficult to come up with a question regarding the processes where we wouldn't know what to look for, or how to access that data in the process world. And then, of course, intervention based on facts and definite knowledge of the scope of any issue. I haven't measured that. It would have been a very good indicator had we put that in place, but the number of emails going out from the head of supply chain to several branches with the distribution list of, say, 50 managers has gone down dramatically, because we don't need that. We know what the case is, and if there's a question, we can go directly to the person who knows. And we don't need to send out emails saying, please behave. We can go out and ask a question, why is this customer problematic with this supply model? And is this something that is going to continue, or is this an anomaly? And that has big power. Okay, so that was kind of the fact-finding in the beginning, and then the re-engineering part. Let's, for a second, assume that we are a customer service director in, let's say, Antarctica. And one morning we come to work and notice that our perfect order number is 6%. Right. Sounds a bit low, doesn't it? Now, we have said that our perfect order happens when we have a happy delivery, so the customer gets the goods at the time when it's when they ordered it, and in the desired quantity and quality as such. We can see that, okay, this morning we have 89. Well, it's anybody's call whether that is good or bad. But what we can assume here, that the 6% performance does not come from the happy delivery issue. I mean, that's almost 90% right. But then the other part of the perfect order means that the process itself, how we've handled the order, the changes and all that has gone as it was planned. And now I guess we found one level that, okay, that is actually only 7%. So the process itself, how we handled it internally, probably isn't where it should be. And then we've said that the first time right comes from all these 5 things need to be right before we can say that it's first time right. And obviously it is pretty easy to see that it is the automatic pricing in this case that caused the poor performance. I mean, there were problems with some other areas, but this was clearly the one in red. And then, of course, we did whatever it needed doing, whatever the pricing process is. Did we have the price lists in place? Did we have the customer contracts in place? But, now we've identified that, something in the pricing needs improvement. And of course, I mean, it is a representative illustration in a way that, okay, we did something, we got that back to 66, its perfect order is 39 now, our average being 50, so yeah. Not, again, where we want to be, but a bit better than the 6% that we started with. Okay, then closer to today, last year we started to look at possibilities to automate our processes a bit further, and this is one order to cash flow. There's a bit of order intake there, then there's planning, and then in the middle there is, I think this is transportation planning, and then there's invoicing in the end. No need to go into detail here, but this particular flow, the first time right for this a bit longer term is 12%. Now, back to an earlier presentation, would it be feasible to automate something like that? 12% going like that. Does it pay to automate 12% of your cases? I would say no. But you might be able to automate one step in there. But really, is that what we are looking for? No, we want to automate this. So what you need to do here is either you will have to increase this quite a lot. I think, you better be in the neighborhood of 60 to 80% before really investing in automation. Or you need to break this into smaller processes, and then you can start thinking of automating parts of it. Right. So this kind of work we have kind of ongoing now. So at the same time, you can think of these questions, can we design better processes? Are they such that they will affect the customer experience? If so, is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? And if it gets worse, does it get worse for the important customers, or does it get worse for the less important customers, perhaps? Can I split? Yeah, we talked about this. Can I split the process so that I can automate some parts of it? And how stable is this? Is this 12% happening all the time, or is this an anomaly? Again, very valuable information. Which circumstances it varies. Okay, that was the journey, and then it's the judgment time. Whether it's a success or not. The conformant order lines out of this bit more than 200,000, I think, in rough terms, we've gone from 40% to 80% conformant order lines. We have, well, in all practical purposes for the product like ours, bulky stuff, Finland is an island. You don't realize it looking at the map, but the only transportation mode out of Finland that is economically feasible for this kind of product is by ship. Therefore, Finland is an island. And we do have a geographical handicap to the kind of Central European producers. We can talk about 2 to 3 weeks depending on the delivery address. So I claim that we've kind of mitigated that a bit. We have added something like 60% of order lines and volume over these years, and the headcount in the supply chain organization remains the same as it was in 2011. Not directly process measurements, but I'd just like to point out that I joined the company in 2011. So did many other people as well. So, but that's one thing. The deliveries, and you can, this is half year now. 60%, we've been able to grow 12% per year. The generic organic growth in the business is roughly 3 to 4% per year. And those are, of course, the traditional kind of important metrics for any manufacturing company, I would say. But we are now more and more able to convey the message of being a good corporate citizen. And this is only if you have your kind of base act is somehow under control. If you can't do reliable deliveries, the customers are not interested in the well-being of your employees. It might go the other way around, but that's the message. So we are doing a lot of work, and you can call this marketing, whatever, I don't care. It's important. And the best thing, I think, for the individual in the company is, and this is ideal world, but I can see more and more of this. Management is more keen on improving processes than making big decisions. Of course, you have to be able to make big decisions. But if you can fix the process before you need to make a big decision, it's much better. And for everyone, we've gone from, yeah, it didn't go right, but I did my best. We've gone from that to, thank you for telling me so I can fix it. Again, a huge change in the mindset of the people.